Welcome to another episode of Corporate CPR, where we breathe life back into your organization, projects, and processes, giving you insights to recovery and avoiding corporate mortality events. Today, we will be talking about how to crack the code of a great culture and how to scale it. And joining us to contribute to the conversation is Darrin Jahnel. Welcome, Darrin. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jana. I know it's early for you. You're on the other side of the world in Australia, and I think it's like 5 in the morning or something crazy for you. So you get a pass on that. But thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and hopefully I can share some things and some anecdotes that'll add some value for your listeners.
That's fantastic. Can you give a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I am the co-founder and CEO of a software development company called Jahnel Group. So we're based in upstate New York, about 2 hours north of New York City here in America. We develop custom software for businesses. So we have about 145 people on our team. Our headquarters is here in New York State, but we have people remotely throughout the United States as well. Everybody's onshore in America, though. And businesses will call us in to build custom software. So sometimes we'll design and develop the project and do everything and be their entire software development team, build it, develop it, and support it. And then sometimes, more often than not, about 2/3 of our work is team supplementation, where an already existing software development team, they've got a big group that's already building software. They'll come to us for more firepower, and we'll add maybe 2-3 engineers, a project manager, whatever they need to kind of fill out their team. So that's our business model. My brother and I are co-founders. We started this together. Before this, we've had a ton of awful business ideas and some really bad business failures. And then prior to that, we started our career in the late 90s, early 2000s as software engineers on Wall Street. So you're talking to a computer nerd here. We love building software, and I'm happy to go into in depth in any one of those areas if you'd like me to.
Sounds great. Well, Darrin, you claim you've cracked the code on culture, and we on this show we've talked about culture quite a bit because it is actually something I'm very passionate about. We've heard a lot of themes, but I'd be interested to understand why you feel that, and what evidence you even have that you guys have cracked the culture. How do you know that you've got a great culture?
Yeah, sure. Right. So to say we've cracked the code on culture is a big claim, right? And I think a lot of companies claim we have a great culture, but then maybe when you pull back the covers and you get in there a little bit, it might not be a bad culture or a toxic culture, but maybe there's, the oomph isn't there. There's not much life there. For us, in terms of, maybe some proof or some street cred on that. Again, we've built the company from 2 people to 145. We've hit the Inc. 5000 list 6 years in a row. In our area, there are 2 newspapers that give an award out for the best company culture. And we've won each of them. I think it's 5 years in a row or maybe 6 years in a row, right? And that is a truly anonymous survey. I do believe that the people are voting with integrity, and we are winning those awards. But probably the most important thing is our turnover is extremely low, right? You can say all you want about culture, but if people are leaving all the time, then okay, the culture is not that great, right? And so our turnover is below 10%, and it's significantly below our industry average, especially in this, in the time of the Great Resignation, right? We have certainly had people leave, but it's far below industry averages, and that to me is something that really I'm really proud of. And I'll give you something else, Jana. This is a crazy stat. I don't usually bring this up, but we're talking about like street cred. We have a stat. We've had 8 mothers of Jahnel Group employees actually cry. We're talking about tears, salt water come out of the eyeballs, and actual, go into actual tears, because their son or daughter has found their place at Jahnel Group, right? And that is the most bizarre, craziest stat ever when you think about, there's been 8 different mothers who've said, oh my goodness, my son or my daughter has found their place. I love you guys. I love this place. Right. And that's something pretty crazy. Probably sounds like a lie, but we actually have a slide where we have all the names and the dates and exactly the situation of when the person cried. So
Wow, good. You're memorializing it.
Yeah, they
Well,
might not be so happy, right? It's like you're gonna write it down when I cried, but we're so proud of it.
mm, that's awesome. Well, let's start with how did you even become interested in culture and that it was something that stood out to you as a thing to focus on?
This is definitely something that formed in my brother and I in our early years, right? We grew up playing sports. We were diehard basketball players, really intense. We were super into it, and we were lucky enough to be a part of a few really special teams as young players, right? And so to be on a team and experience that, we kind of didn't realize how good we had it. We were spoiled. We just thought like, oh, this is the way it is. When you're on teams, it's amazing like this. Because when someone's a part of a special team, and it doesn't have to be a sports team, right? It could be a company, it could be a band, a fraternity, a sorority, a group of friends. It could be different things, but a special team, that to me is when people are at their best, when they're a part of a special team, right? And people are willing to sacrifice for each other. They're fired up to come in and get to work. They're challenging each other. They're competitive with each other, but it's the light side of competitiveness, right? There's a dark side of competitiveness where that goes too far, right? But to me, the number one telltale sign of a special team is it's like a magnet, Jana. It just draws people in. After the big game, people just don't leave. They all go out together and they want to be around each other. Family and friends are drawn towards it. And again, it's like a magnet and it draws people in. So we were able to experience that a lot, again, early as athletes, just kind of through luck, right? We got on these special teams. And then as we got older and went off into our business career, we said, oh, this doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like it used to. And why doesn't it? I want to freaking make it feel that way because that's the way I want to live. That's the type of people I want to be around. And so we set out and we're very intentional in trying to develop that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And what do you think then are kind of the key attributes to create a team like that or have a team like that? Because I think, just hearing a little bit about what you're saying, there has to be some level of like-mindedness. I mean, I'm sure, diversity obviously still exists in teams and how people bring their experiences or their backgrounds to the team, but I imagine there has to be some sort of alignment as well. So what makes up a team that ends up having that synergy like you're talking about?
Sure. That's a great question. And to us, it all starts with that, right? It's having the right people on the team. You could send the greatest leader into a group of folks that aren't the right people. They don't have the right chemistry. And I
Mhm.
think that leader would fail, right? That in general, I'm speaking in generalities, but it's about finding the right people. And so we are obsessed with the way we recruit and the way we add people to our team here, right? We make sure that they're matching on our core values. We make sure they have that servant's mentality. We make sure that they're easy to work with, right? I want to work with easy people. I don't want to work with people who are bringing up drama and starting trouble. And, it's always a struggle. Like I remember in my corporate job, I'm like, why would we even employ these type of people? There were only a few of them, but one or two or three of them can really ruin a whole culture because it's like, oh my goodness, every time we have to deal with this person, it's just a headache. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to deal with them and it drags everybody down. So we're nuts about our recruiting process and kind of making sure that we get the right people. Jana, this year, just to show you how intense we are about our recruiting, we're going to vet 150,000 people. So that's a quick LinkedIn stalking, like a resume search, just real quick. But of those 150,000, we're going to interview 1,500 of them. So 1,500 people we're going to interview to hire about 60 or 70. So when you think about that, right, when you're going through that number, that many people, and you're vetting them all, and we go through 6-7 rounds of interviews, the people that come out the end of that process are the best and the brightest. And that's who I want on my team. I want stars. I don't want B players and C players. I just don't want them, right? It's hard to build a special culture if you don't have the right people. And so that's where we start. And that's the foundation of everything.
Okay. And that's a lot of people. So let's talk a little bit about a little bit more about your interview process because that takes quite a bit. So, um, Well, so one story that comes to mind, there's a guy named Dave Ramsey who's a financial guru, I guess you could call him, personal finances, and every person that he talked about hiring, and I don't know if this now is for his whole company or not, because the company's grown significantly, but he tells a story about how he takes that guy, whoever he's hiring, the person and their significant other to dinner just to get to know them, because he wants to make sure the significant other is on board with the company, because if that person's not happy, then most likely the person won't last at the job. So I always thought that was interesting. But I suppose you have some of those things then, if you're vetting people, that many people, and that focused on culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey as well. And we do that exact technique, right? We certainly don't go out to eat with every single person we hire, but we do try to, especially for leadership positions and maybe the more significant roles, we're trying to, connect with them, connect with their spouse if they are married, right? And see them outside of work, outside of an interview. Lots of people can sound great in an interview, and then you go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress messes up their order. Well, how do they handle that?
Right.
Are they a jerk to the waiter? If they're a jerk to the waiter, then we're done. I don't care how smart you are, where your degree's from. We're done immediately. I just don't want someone who's going to, be
Right.
disrespectful to someone like that, right? And that's just such a slam dunk. It's such an easy thing in order to get them out of there. And so, yeah, we definitely go out of our way to try to connect with people in unique ways and get them out of the traditional interview questions. Because like I said, I think there's lots of people that could fool you in an interview setting, right? I also think flipping the interview from, I think a lot of people, when they interview, they say, well, you need to impress me. I'm in a position
Mm.
of power. I'm going to ask you tough questions and I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable. And if you get through it, maybe you'll be lucky enough to get a job here, right? We kind of flip that upside down. If we identify the person as a star, we come at them like we're recruiting for like a college football program. We are selling them on what we're doing, right? If we already know that they're a star, maybe we know they're a star because one of our people worked with them at a previous job, or we heard them speak at a conference, or there's other reasons why we already know they're a star. We flip it upside down and we give them the position of power, and we're trying to sell ourselves, right? And so I think we're looking at it through a different lens, and immediately it changes everything. The conversation changes, and you should hear the things that we talk about. We get to actually know them. You can see their body language, their shoulders drop and they relax, and you start to have a conversation as if they were a friend and somebody you met at a bar, right? And certainly if you're at a bar and you can get them drinking, then their true colors are going to come out.
That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess we do a little bit different than the standard as well, where basically once I talk to everybody we hire, um, and hope that I can do that even when we have 180 whatever, 185. But when they get to me, they've already talked to the team about their capability. When they get to me, it's just a conversation. It's like, hey, tell me about like how you grew up, like what interests you, what do you do for fun, what happens outside of work, because I trust that they can do the job, and now it's just about how do you resonate with our culture, the things we're doing, because we do things a little differently, and then do you just in general like you said, easy to work with, like to have fun, those type of things, because that's what's important to building a team that likes to work together.
I love that, Gianna. And I take a similar approach as well, right? Because by the time they get to me, they've been through 6, 7 interviews. Um, Another thing that we focus on, which I think is a unique thing, I've never really heard of other companies doing this, and we figure this out in these informal conversations that we start to have. So we're in the software industry. You could imagine how many introverts we have here, right? Software engineers can be very introverted.
Mm.
Um, so we're very intentional about the ratio
Mm.
of introverts to extroverts, right? If you go on a road trip and you put 10 introverted, anxious software engineers in a car and you're driving somewhere, that might not be the best road trip. It might not be awful, but you're probably not going to have amazing fun and all of these extra adventures. Now, if it's 1/3 extroverts though, so now you take maybe six, you take 6 introverts and you put in 4 extroverts, people who are a little bit more outgoing, people who take chances and stir the pot. Now that road trip changes, right? Because they're going to be out there pushing the boundaries, getting you into trouble, and all of a sudden adventures are going to happen, right? And so we're very intentional about that, and we're trying to be very conscious about the way we build our teams, and to make sure that there's someone in each group, each road trip, each team that can kind of stir the pot and really lead from an energy and an extrovert perspective, right? So the introverted person can kind of just chill on the outside, and right, they can come to one of our events and just grab a beer and stand on the side, and they're going to have an awesome time because there's enough idiots like me running around carrying on and creating energy. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's really really cool. So, now I guess, as they say, that you got the right people on the bus, I guess, how are you keeping them on the bus? What are you guys
Sure.
doing
So
from a culture perspective?
yeah, so we're very good at recruiting, and we can sell them, and oh my goodness, it's amazing. Wait till you get here, it's going to be great. Well, then once they get here, we got to deliver on that, right? Especially if we're getting the stars that I'm claiming we're getting, right? We're getting great people. So if you're not keeping them happy, then they're just going to move on, right? They've got endless opportunities, especially engineers in this current market. And so it's about, once they get here, they don't work for us, we work for them. We have to focus to make sure that they're working on great projects, working with good technology, good clients. Their team is great. We can partner with them so that they can take their career and steer it where they want it to go, right? If they come here and even if the culture's great, but they can't continue to advance their career, well, then we're not doing our part. We sold them on this amazing thing. Now that they're here, we've got to deliver on that. And so, it's not just the culture, and, there's a lot of BS around here, ping pong tables and beer kegs and all the kind of the BS, but that's just like, I could throw a beer keg in some other place, and ping pong tables and video games. But if the culture's not right, if the people aren't right, if the people don't care, well, then those things just won't get used, and it doesn't mean anything, right? So it's actually putting them and their needs before the companies. Because if you have great people and you serve them, well, then they will serve the client, and they're going to deliver for the client, and then your business is going to grow. And that's how we've grown, right? We don't have to really focus on growth and sales. We just have to keep getting great people and take care of them. And so it's kind of all about that mentality, and making sure that we partner with them so they can architect the life of their dreams, right? The life that each person wants, the life of your dreams, is different for everybody, right? I'm a 45-year-old married guy with 4 kids. What I want might be different than a 25-year-old woman who's single, right? Maybe she wants to travel, maybe she doesn't. Maybe, the 40, 50-year-old guy who's got 2 kids in college, well, he's got to pay for college, right? That's what he's focused on. So it's coming alongside every person in whatever phase of life they're in, and the life that they want to build for themselves.
Hmm. Well, and so that's, I think even goes to how you recognize people. And I think that, recognition is obviously one that's a commonly identified, this is what you have to do, but you guys, I guess, do it a little different. So you want to share about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea of rewarding and recognizing and celebrating your star performers, I think, is a pretty common idea. I think people maybe lack a little creativity sometimes when they do that, right? Oh, we'll announce them at the next team meeting and maybe give them a bonus. That's awesome. That's good. Don't, keep doing that. But sometimes you can have such a greater impact if you go so much further, right? An example that I often give is so say you again, you could give somebody a $5,000 bonus and announce them, and that's going to make them feel good, and they're going to want that money. But what if when that person, say it's a woman who has 2 kids, and she brings her 2 kids into the office, we got a real cool office space here. The kids love coming in. There's video games and ping pong and all the stuff I was talking about. And what if when her 8-year-old and 10-year-old sons come in, the leaders of the company come out and say, hey kids, you know what a rock star your mom is? She kicked so much butt on her last project. She did this, da, 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 da. We're hyping her up. And then we gift those kids something maybe that they've always wanted, right? Maybe one of the kids is into baseball and we give them a nice $100 baseball bat, and the other kid's into video games and we buy him the Xbox game that he wanted. And we know what they want because we're listening and we're paying attention and we're connected to her and we're listening to her about her life and her story, right? And now we're celebrating their mom to these two kids who are going to look up to their mom like a superhero. They're going to be so overjoyed about those gifts, right? And then the mom is going to, in my experience, what we've seen is the mother is going to appreciate that so much more, those $300 worth of gifts, so much more than maybe a $5,000 bonus, right? And then maybe the husband's there too, and he sees his wife as a rock star, and they go, wow, I love this place. It just feels right. And doing that in a different way, right? And there are so many opportunities to pick these things up. If you got an employee who's into a charity, donate to that charity, give money personally to that charity, go above and beyond with that, right? We had one of our employees, they were throwing a big 50th anniversary party for their parents, right? And so it was a big whole thing. And we found out where it was, and they had an open bar, and we picked up the tab on the open bar. I forgot what it cost. It was maybe like $6-7 grand. You would have thought we gave that person a $200,000 bonus, right? And then the word went around the party, and the parents like, oh my God, that's amazing. And it had such a strong impact, right? And it's connecting with their family, and it's showing them we're listening and we care. And it's just something that's also the way I want to live my life. It's just more fun than giving a regular bonus. And so I think that's one of the things that we do that's really unique, Jana.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. One thing I'm really curious about, because you've mentioned your office a couple of times, but then you've also mentioned remote people, and obviously with being in an office, you're right. Like I've seen a lot of great cultures where people come together around the kegerator, and one of the things, I used to work at Target, and there was a brief period where we probably had a really good culture at the store we worked at, and it was when all the managers would get to play together and play foosball, because it was just a time to build a relationship that wasn't on the floor, and then it creates a sense of understanding, I guess you could even say. Like you just get that person when you know them on a non-work level. Anyway, so those things are hard though, remotely. So how do you connect the remote team?
Yeah, so let me talk about remote culture specifically, because since the beginning we've nailed the in-office culture. There's something magic going on here. It is really cool. It's a really cool scene. But what we found is, as we started to get more and more remote, about 1/3 of our people are truly remote. Like they're not even within like a 2-hour drive of the office, right? And then even the local people, which is two-thirds of 145 people, so whatever that works out to, a significant portion of them don't even come into the office. They just work remote, because we say, do whatever you want to do, right? And so one of the ways we've addressed that is we're looking to create 1 or 2, hopefully 3 or 4 really amazing, unique, extraordinary in-person experiences per year, Jana. So if you think about in your life, think about the people that you got the closest with the quickest, right? So maybe you took a trip to China with somebody. Maybe you pledged a sorority together with somebody. Maybe you did something really unique. You didn't really know them well, and then you had this experience together, and it kind of fast forwarded your relationship, right? Sometimes it's something really fun, that's that extraordinary experience. Sometimes it's something awful, right? Maybe you're on a project and it's just the shit hits the fan, and you're working 80-hour weeks for 2 months. But on the other side of that you feel bonded to this person, right? So we're trying to be intentional about creating opportunities where these extraordinary experiences can happen. So 4 times a year, we're bringing all of our remote resources in, or anyone who wants to. Some can just say, you can take part in this, or you can pass on it. And so we'll fly them in, and we'll do some amazing event at the office. Maybe we'll go out to the AWS conference in Las Vegas. We do all these different types of road trips, and we're being really intentional about trying to create these extraordinary experiences. Because if people go through this together, right? Say, let's take the Vegas trip, for example. So say we go out there with maybe 5 or 6 people from headquarters, and then we bring 10 of our remote people and we roll out to Vegas 16 deep, and we go at it at the conference, right? We're at the conference, we're going out to dinners, we're gambling, we're carrying on and drinking and doing whatever we want to do to have fun. And people can partake in that or not, right? We're going to have fun. We're going to make connections. We're going to have stories. We're going to fast forward those relationships. Now, when we're doing the remote happy hour or the remote event, or they're flying out for their second time, the connections are already there. They're real relationships. And it just makes all of that stuff so much stronger, right? So you have to have those in-person, true deep connections in order to have the real culture. Now, something that to kind of dovetail onto this, something that we do, or the way we look at it uniquely, is we look at our culture like a buffet. It's take what you want and leave what you don't want. And so all of this is optional, right? Some of our remote resources are like, dude, I don't need all that. I don't want to go out to Vegas with you and carry on like a gorilla. I'm going to just chill at my house. I got a wife and kids, and I'm going to stay here and do my thing. And that's okay too. I think a lot of companies that have a really intense culture, it's kind of all or nothing. Either you drink the Kool-Aid and you're all in, or you're like an outcast weirdo. Here at Jahnel Group, everything we do is for the employees' benefit. So if they don't want to do something, they don't have to do anything, right? And so I think it's that balance. And by offering all of these things and allowing them to pass on anything they want to, it allows them to create the type of work experience and relationships that they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So do you have people then who kind of don't engage then, and they don't in anything? Or do you find that you have enough variety that eventually somebody engages in something?
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly have. I'm going to guess there's a dozen people here who are just like, you can keep all that. I got a guy who lives across the street. I haven't seen him in 2 years. You know what I mean? He's just like, I'm good at my house. I don't even want to come. You know, this office is amazing. There's a cool culture, and he has friends here. But he's just like, he's an inside guy. He doesn't want to do it. So why would I force him? Right? He's doing great work. He's an amazing engineer. I'll let him do his thing. And so yeah, so we never push it. I mean, to me, obviously, I'm an extrovert. I'm a freaking nutcase, right? I don't understand why people don't want to do this, but I'm smart enough, smart enough's not the right word. I'm experienced enough to know, yeah, that people. So what I want is not for everybody, right? And so yeah, if somebody just says you can keep all that, we put zero pressure on them. You know, and if they don't want to do it, as long as they're doing good work and they're a good teammate, you know, we let them go. What we find is when we do reviews, like during the annual review process, when you talk to those folks, we've heard this more times than not. Even though I don't take part in the culture, I'm really glad I work at a place that has this. I'm like, why? We're spending all this money on it. You probably would get paid a little bit more if we weren't wasting all this money on all these shenanigans. But it's kind of, it feels cool that they still appreciate it, even if they don't lean in, you know?
Well, so let's talk that a little bit, because you know, reviews as they stand in the majority of the United States are antiquated and very kind of outdated process that's gone on since, I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere before I was born, I'm sure. So how do you guys do your reviews, and how do you make it more, and maybe maybe it ends with a piece of paper and starts before that. I don't know. We haven't talked about this. So yeah, how do you do your review process, and that makes it, you know, something that people are on board with?
Yeah, sure. So we run everything through that filter of like, does this feel right? And I just remember my reviews in my corporate days. It was just like, it just felt like a joke. It felt like this silly form. I'm answering 300 questions. It's like, why aren't we actually talking about me and my career and my life and where I want to go, right? And so we take all that stuff and we just scrap it. We just throw it out the window. We do have a form that has 7 questions on it, but they're guiding, open-ended questions. And it's about having that real relationship and talking about, where is this person trying to go? And not just professionally, personally. What, are you trying to buy a house? Are you having kids? What type of life are you trying to build for yourself? And how can we help you get there? Right. And so it's take all of that corporate stuff and just toss it right out the window and try to actually connect with the person. And so, yeah, we do the reviews annually in your month of hire. So if you were hired in July, you'll have it every July and August or whatever month. But it's not about that once a year. It's about actually connecting with them throughout the year. It's about going out to lunch. It's about hanging out after. It's about getting to know them. Maybe you can connect with their family. Maybe you can go spend time at their house, right? I loved what you said earlier when you were talking about Dave Ramsey and kind of involving the family. I want to get to know the family, because I don't look at it like this is my work life and this is my personal life. I keep them separate. I love when the worlds can merge. And so that's kind of the way we look at the review process. It's more than just, this form that doesn't mean anything.
No, it's great. Well, this has been a really interesting conversation, Darrin. I'd love to hear what, top 3 things you want to, or the 3 things you want to leave top of mind for people are.
So the one thing I like to leave people with is, in this environment where you've probably heard a lot of business leaders complain, I can't hire anybody. There's no good people. Nobody wants to work anymore. What I would say is there are still superstars out there. There's tons of them, but you got to put the work in, right? When I hear somebody goes, I can't hire anybody. I've tried everything. I'm like, okay, so what have you tried? How many people have you hired or interviewed? And they're like, I've interviewed 7 people. And I'm like, 7? Yeah, I want to hear 77, right? Or certainly at least 27. And so that's like kind of the one thing I would want to leave people with. If you're listening to this podcast, have this be a little shot in the arm saying, maybe I got to step up my recruiting efforts here. And if I want to really, truly build a world-class team, right? And so that's kind of the one takeaway I'd like to leave people with, Jana.
Any others? Or you just want to leave one?
I'll just leave that one.
Okay.
Again, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you can look us up at Jahnel Group, jahnelgroup.com, JAHNEL group.com. I love to do speaking engagements, culture trainings, things of that nature. If you have any software needs, of course, hit us up.
Yeah.
Even if we could just give you some free advice, we'd be happy to jump on and try to add some value.
All right. Sounds great, Darrin. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jana.
And to our audience, until next time, keep your organizations healthy.
Hey!